This video is an experiment where I just want to show the proximity between the different theaters, the main art house theaters in Philadelphia, the Ritz Theatres. Now, I'm using an unusual technique here. I'm not actively pointing the camera. I think I'm actually holding the camera somewhere near my chest here. It didn't really work, as you see it. The camera was slightly angled upward, so you don't see anything on a street level. Everything is high. Occasionally the camera dips down and you see things, but by and large, you don't really get to see much. And I actually am going to be using this technique. One of the things that's kind of cool about it is that you don't know what you get until you actually view the video later on. So that's one thing that's about it that's kind of interesting. But it's just a capture of the moment. What I'm going to actually do here, and right now I'm actually passing one of the first theaters that I wanted to talk about. It's the Ritz Theater. You don't see it here on this video, but I'm walking right past it here, and it's funny because there's a huge crowd of people. I'm not really sure. This was like a weekday, I think a Tuesday or something like that, and there was a huge number of people waiting out in front of the theater. I'm thinking there was some type of screening going on, and you don't really see any of that, but I just letting you know what's happening around me here. There's a lot of different places in Philadelphia to see films. The Ritz Theatres are the most prominent. There's other locations which I will post some links to in the space underneath the video so that you can follow them. There's a courtyard right next door to the Ritz Theater. Get to see that a little bit before the camera goes upward again. It's really a beautiful area. This is in like the old city section of Philadelphia, and probably the most attractive and most colonial, or one of the more colonial areas of the town. And it's a really good setting for the theaters. A lot of places that you go to see cinema, sometimes the art house theaters are in out of the way places. It's not centrally located. Often they're not downtown. But in Philadelphia, that's not the case. They're right there in what was called, this is Old City. Old City is a neighborhood in the center city section. That's what we call downtown in Philadelphia, Center City. And that's where you'll find the theaters, and all very close in proximity. This is a very short 9-minute or so video. And in that, and I'm not walking fast here, I'm walking really at a slow pace. In that, you'll see that you can hit up all three theaters within 9 minutes, and in just just a few blocks away from each other. This is a really cool walkway. I go down this walkway just about almost every day. It's tree covered, and it really keeps out the sun, and so it's always cool and comfortable. Right next to there is like a colonial restaurant where they wear period costumes. Okay, now here's the second theater here. It's the Ritz 5-screen theater. The Ritz East that we just started off with has 2 screens. I would say the Ritz 5 I prefer a little bit more than the Ritz East. Ritz East shows films that I would say is a little bit more commercial. Ritz East, or Ritz 5, shows more foreign, independent theaters, although it's not my favorite of the 3 Ritz Theatres. So that's the second one. Now we're walking down, what is this? What street is this? Walnut Street is the name of this street. And you see the different buildings. I mean, it's just a really, you don't really, I mean, you just, after a while, it just becomes part of the landscape, and you're just walking past. You don't really notice the buildings that much. But it's a really beautiful area. They're actually building a new museum right as we're walking, not so much right here, I'm just crossing a street here, but to the left, and I just found out this recently. I was wondering what they're constructing there, because on the other side of the street, as you go forward, there's a gate, and it blocks off the sidewalk. And I found out recently that they're building a museum there. The building itself is vacant, So it's really nice that they're actually going to be doing something with it, not just letting it sit there. It's a beautiful old building, and actually you can kind of see it off to the left here occasionally as the camera is bobbing back and forth. So, I just pass. See, one of the things that's really interesting is when I'm doing this walk here, I'm passing tons of people. And you only get a sense of it here and there as the camera dips downward. But I was passing a ton of people, and I thought I would capture a lot of that. I have guys on bikes going past, and you don't really get a sense of that at all by looking at this video. You just see the tops of the buildings for the most part. So that's the interesting thing about this video. But, Philadelphia is a really good cinema town. These Ritz Theatres are all owned by Landmark, and Landmark, as most people know, owns art house theaters all around the nation. You can find Landmark theaters in all the major cities and a lot of the smaller cities, but mostly in the bigger cities they have theaters. The Ritz Theatres were at one time I guess, locally owned, and when Landmark purchased them, and I don't remember exactly when they did it. Now you can see the sidewalks here. It's not a traditional sidewalk. I'm not even sure what it's like, a brick. But anyway, when Landmark purchased them, I remember really feeling like there was going to be a major change to the theaters. It hasn't really been. They still have kept a lot of traditions. They have a little booklet that they put out that was something that the old Ritz Theatres did, which has reviews on the films, and also talks a lot about different things you can do in the local area related to events and arts and things like that. They still keep those up and running. At one time, because they come out just about every month, they have a combined issue. I think December, January is a combined issue. Right now we're in Independence Park. I'm coming in and out of the conversation and also talking about what's on the screen here. And you see, it's a really lovely area. This park is probably, that we're walking through right here, you can't really see everything. It's probably one of my favorite in Philadelphia. It's right next to the main area of Independence Park, where you can find things like the Liberty Bell and all that. But because it's a little further away, this park tends to be very quiet at all times of the day. And sometimes I have time to kill. I'll come down here, maybe get something to eat, and I'll eat in the park. Really nice place. Right now we had another walkway, and you're going to become very familiar with a lot of the things that you're seeing here, because I'm going to do a couple other videos utilizing the same method, where the camera is not really being pointed directly and it's kind of bouncing around. So you're going to get a different sense of what this area is like. Maybe at one point I'll actually do the camera work properly. But as strange as it may seem, I'm kind of enjoying this a little bit. So we're very close to the final Ritz Theater. And as we're walking along here, we just have to cross one more street. And it is actually an ending here. When we get to the theater, you will know. Because I'm actually going to pick up the camera. Oh, there's my hand. I'm actually going to pick up the camera and do an actual pointing direction of the camera. I don't know if there's any video of the Ritz Theatres on the net. I search for it, and I don't see anybody has ever videotaped any of these theaters. So it's just interesting that I have a new playlist that I have for Art House Cinema. I might post a link to it here. Okay, here we are. This is